website tool structure. Entire websites are designed with boxes, sections, rows, columns, and elements. So now we shall demystify this to understand it with an analogy. So section 1, section 2, like that we can have multiple sections in a website. Same way in the website, rows are also adjustable. This is how you structure your website as per containers. This element is an object which is kept in the compartments, in the rows, in the containers and the objects, so that you can have the entire structured way. So once boxes are kept in a structured way, you'll be able to get an amazing website design. So it's an experience sharing with you, so you can get value and make your process faster. Dr. Sajjan here, digital health consultant, and today we will be discussing about website tool structure. So this is one of the topics which is very difficult to explain also, and for you to understand when it comes to designing a website and understanding that tools, right? But however, today we actually demystified this entire tools in the website, which is called as rows, columns, elements, and so many things which comes the sections, which are actually confusing when I started as a website designer, right? To design as a passion. And for you, someone who's actually corely interested to understand this, and this is the topic which had with years of experience. Today I'm actually going to demystify this entire process and how you can understand these tools better. Without ado, let's jump into the topic. So basically, website design tools, right? So let's first understand our concept which we discussed in the previous video, the first video actually. That is, building a website is similar to having an physical infrastructure. When it comes to physical infrastructure, as you can see, you're going to build a physical infrastructure same way how you're going to build a digital infrastructure, right? So now again in the same process, today also we'll use the same analogy to understand the website design tools structures. Okay, so when it comes to building an entire physical structure, what is the basic unit of the entire structure? How do you build a building? Okay, so if I ask what is the building block of a particular infrastructure in a physical space, that would be a brick, right? And when it comes to digital space, basically you add brick to brick, brick by brick, brick by brick, brick by brick to build an entire physical infrastructure. So brick becomes the building block of a physical infrastructure. When it comes to a building block for a website is same as a brick, we call it as a box, right? But there's a small twist here. When it comes to a box is a three-dimensional structure, right? It's a box is a three-dimensional structure. But when it comes to website design, we are actually looking into the box, but box in an 2D image. Okay, a box which is in a 2D image, which is actually you're not able to see the third dimension. It's a two-dimensional image, right? Clear? So building block for an physical infrastructure is an brick, and building block for an digital infrastructure, or when you call it as a website for us, it's a box. So entire websites are designed with boxes. Okay, that's it. So you just have to understand how these boxes are structured. You'll be able to understand how to build a website. That simple as it. And we are going to demystify that in a very simple and a very nice analogy in a further video now. Right. So basically, when you want to build a building like this, you're going to have box, 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 box. It's all boxes placed in a structured way to build an entire building. Okay. So when it comes to website layout, we call it as a grid layout. And when you look at grid, it's all boxes. We have multiple boxes, and these grids can be merged and aligned in such a way to get a specific structure in a website. And you can see how these grids are converted into a grid layer of website design, and it can be having multiple combinations of a small box, big box, to structure it in such a way that you get a great outcome for a design look. Okay, so now let's understand what is this website grid, layout grid, it's all about. So basically it's a box. So now in the website, as I said, it's a 2D structure, right? It's not a 3D structure where you can see a box, okay, with 3D depth and all, right? So it's a 2D box. So we are going to have box inside box, so that finally you'll get one image inside there, right? So where we have a particular, now for example, the same thing we'll do in a box process. So we have first box, which is called as sections, and we have a second box inside that box, it's called as rows, and we have third box inside that row box, which is called as columns, and inside that where you can add elements. So what are elements? You can see in that 3D structure box, what you can see is that elements are basically images, text, or anything which you want to add to the website is the element. So this is how we have boxes placed, so we can build a website with the boxes, right? So I know it's getting confused at this point. Don't worry, that's where we are going to demystify this entire website layout grid in a very simple, amazing analogy, which I have got some eureka moment and started comparing to a particular known object so that you can understand it better, right? And finally you will have so you can see that there is we have settings for each box. There is a setting icon. For example, the first one is called move. To move this box around, you can use that. Then you have an edit icon, then you can delete this box, and if you want to add more boxes or next boxes, you can have new sections. So like that you'll have it, these settings will be there for sections, rows, columns, and elements, which I'll explain it more better later, right? So it's all about arranging the box in the right way so that you get the image in a very specific structure of the design of the website. Okay, so basically what is this website grid layout? So this is actual snapshot from the website. So this is how it looks. It will not be so colored what I showed in the previous slide. So basically that light gray color is the section, then the blue color is a row, then you have column, then you have elements in the center. So this is how it looks. Okay, so now we shall demystify this to understand it with an analogy. Okay, so now let's again giving you one more idea here. So 3D boxes, we're going to remove that boxes one by one. So you have a big box which is called as sections, then you have multiple, we can have rows, which is the next box, then you have column which is inside that, and then you can add an image which is called as element or a text or a carousel or whatever. You have the multiple elements which I'll be discussing. I'll show you in the next slides. Okay, this is how the entire website grid layout would look like. So now let's understand the first concept of how this entire rows, sections, columns, elements are structured. So if you are looking into this particular slide, where you can see that this is from example from an actual website, we have taken a snapshot where you have one section, row, column. So basically these are all in one space. If you click one add new, so it becomes as a one particular group, right? So this is one group on the top. Here we have all this, we have one section, one row, one column, but sorry, two columns and elements too. Okay, here are three columns and three elements. You can see that pink color thing, right? So, but don't worry, this is where I want you to confuse more so that you can get more clarity in the next slide. Right, so now the analogy is wonderful, which I got an eureka moment to show you this. So understanding the website layout grid with an example of a refrigerator is what we are going to do, right? It becomes easy for you to understand from a three-dimensional space point of view. Okay, so first, let's compare the sections of the website to a compartment of the refrigerator. Let's understand the rows from the as a comparative for webs in the refrigerator as shelves, columns as containers in the refrigerator, and elements are objects what we keep inside the refrigerator. Okay, simple. Now I'll demystify this particular concept step by step. So we have a refrigerator. So once you open, you have multiple things inside. We'll give the names and we'll also compare it to the website. Right. First thing is we have a section. Right. The gray thing what you can see is the section, which is called as compartment. Okay. Section is equal to compartment. Now what is sections? So when it comes to refrigerator, we have two sections, on the top one and bottom one, which will comprise everything in that, right? So it has particular function on the top, it has a particular function on the bottom, right? We have two sections. So that is about the first part. So sections are called as compartments in the refrigerator, and that's what is about. So where you can segregate things very specifically, so that you can put things in the right places. Okay, so section 1, section 2, like that we can have multiple sections in a website. Now once we understand the website sections, now put one more layer to that box, is the rows. So when it comes to so what is rows in a refrigerator? Rows is shelves. So when it comes to a refrigerator, rows is equal to shelves. That is, so we have multiple shelves in one section. If you open one section, we can have multiple shelves. So like that, we can have multiple shelves in each sections. The amazing part of this rows is that these rows can be, the size of these rows can be adjusted, right? You can see, as in the refrigerator, you have multiples, you can remove that. For example, in this, remove that, and also you can put down, so that you can get a bigger row, so that you can have bigger items there, right? Same way in the website, rows are also adjustable, so that you can get a better placement of your big images or big text what comes into the place, right? So this is an example of a row. So now what we discussed, we looked into compartments, that is sections. We have one section on the top, we have two rows, right? So again, we have a second section on the bottom, which is called as compartments, and we have big shelf, that is a row, which is adjustable again, as I said. Then you have other rows where you can keep multiple things. Great. So this is how this website structures as sections and rows. You can understand in a better way. Okay, like this, you can have multiple sections and multiple rows inside one sections. Okay, right. So we just looked into the sections, we looked into rows inside that. Now let's look into the very important concept, is column. Okay, so now what is column? Column is actually a container when it comes to explaining a refrigerator. So what is a container? So when it comes to container, these are containers, right? These are our boxes where you keep some vegetables, you put some sprouts, you some powders, right? You have multiple size of container for a refrigerator where you put things and place inside that, so that you know that if you want particular curd, you can just take that container and use that. Okay, so that's how the containers are. Now when it comes to refrigerator, you have multiple containers under which you keep multiple things, and that's what is containers. And now you can place this, the containers can be smaller and bigger. Again, it's a sizable thing. So you can have a small container to get a small content or a text or an image, and you can have a big container to have a big image or a big text or something like that. Okay, so now let's look into the refrigerator and try to put these containers into the refrigerator. So we have one section here. In one section we have multiple rows. Now inside these rows we can have containers. So what is columns? Columns are containers which are placed in such way inside the refrigerator, so that you can place some elements or objects inside that. So if you put that inside the refrigerator, now like this is how you can keep the columns. So inside the rows, you can have one big column or a small column. That is a small container, big container, or multiple containers, or two containers, or again so many containers. Like that, this is how you structure your website as per containers. Okay, so once you design your website as sections, in section you can have multiple rows. Even multiple rows, you can have multiple containers. And now the final part is where you can put your element. So this is how the structure of a website works. So now let's understand. So for element, there is a button which will click as add element. Once you click, you get multiple options where you can select that object. What we call it as element is an object which is kept inside that. And that's when it comes to elements, it's an object. For example, you have an apple can compare to an analogy, right? So it's an image. Then you have rice items which can be called as text, milk, which is, for example, is an video. right? So something like this for you to understand. So now when it comes to refrigerator, when it comes to Dorik, okay, let's go to the Dorik. So Dorik is the website hosting and builder which we recommend for to use because of the cost is very affordable. Second, they have a great speed of website hosting, which is Amazon Cloud and mm, DigiOcean, something like that. And the second is it's a very user friendly thing. Okay, so basically elements or object. When it comes to Dorik, what are the elements we have? We have around 30 plus elements. Like we have, for example, icons, contact forms, countdown timers, images, text, progression bar, social media icons, tabs, and all those things which you'll understand later. But these are all elements which can be added into the columns. So when it comes to website layout grid, what you understood now is you have a section which is called as compartment. Inside the compartment, we can have multiple rows as we have in the fridge. In the multiple rows, which is shelves, we can have containers where you can have multiple containers as per what type of element you want to have. You want to add keep cucumbers in a container, you need to have a bigger container, right? So such way you want to keep water, you need a vertical bottle type of a thing to keep it. Such way you can add multiple elements into those containers, that is columns. So finally the objects, where you can add objects, more than 30 objects you will get as per the designs, and you can add inside them. So this is a very simple way of understanding. So let me give you a more specific the entire holistic overview of what we discussed. So we have sections in websites which we can have multiple sections. Here as a refrigerator we have two sections, section 1 which is compartment, and section 2 which is another compartment. So inside each section we can have multiple rows, as many numbers as rows you want. For example, on the top we have 2 rows, bottom we have 4 rows, right? So now again these rows are adjustable. You can have bigger row, smaller row, bigger row, smaller row, whatever it is. Now coming to the containers. So these containers, so these are the containers which are kept as per again the size. You can again is sizable. You can small containers, big containers, where you can keep as per you want. So finally, once you keep everything in space, so this is how it looks as a filled refrigerator. So finally you have the entire structure in space, so you can now fill content in that containers, and in the compartments, in the rows, in the containers and the objects, so that you can have the entire structured way of how you maintain your refrigerator placement. The same way when you're building a website, this is what's happening. Okay, so when it comes to building this entire structure, so I'm going to build visually here on the right side so that you get an idea on how we are building. For example, if you see that structure on here, so where you can see that, let me come back. Yeah, so where you can see that first is one section. Okay, in that there are some text and a button. So we put, there are 2 rows where they have put. So we put 1 row here, and 1 container, 1 row, and we have 1 column. 1 row, and we have 1 column, which is the container. So you put 1 container. Now inside the container, whatever you want to add, here you can add a text. Okay, second we have 1 row again, and inside that we keep 1 more container where you can add a button. Okay, then you have 1 more section. In 1 more section we have again 2 things. One small text, so we keep 1 small row and a container. Then we have a big row, and we have multiple boxes there, so we have multiple containers. Okay, inside that you can keep whatever images or things we can add there. Then you have 1 more section where you have to keep now 1 row is present, and you have multiple columns under which you have, that is the containers where you can add content. Okay, and you have one again a big section. Now in this section there are 2 rows, as you can see there, and these 2 rows you can add 3 containers. So 3 containers, 3 containers. So these containers can be added as per what is required. Finally we have this one where you have 1 row and 2 columns where you added multiple content, right? So this is how the structure of a website is. Very simple to understand. Once you start doing hands-on in the further section of our video, you'll be able to get a better understanding of this. It's a very simple way. If someone is seeing this video who have already designed the website and would have understood, I am very sure that you would be amazed the way we have demystified this sections, rows, columns, and elements, right? If that's something what you have liked very much, please comment in the section below what was your takeaway and how, what did you like of this, right? Before we close it, so we have boxes, 3D boxes, but when it comes to designing website, it's a 2D box. These 2D box can be made as a grids, and these grids can be realigned to form a particular structure. And as per the grids, what is required, it's all about boxes. Your entire website design is just based on the boxes. So once boxes are kept in a structured way, you'll be able to get an amazing website design. And this is what I've structured a quote where organize your website with refrigerator inspired layout. Think sections as compartment, rows as shelves, columns as containers, and elements as objects for a well structured layout, right? So I designed a code because it was really amazing, so that everyone can get the best value out of what I have understood. So it's an experience sharing with you, so you can get value and make your process faster. Okay, so we have learned with a lot of mistakes and understandings, and that's what is. And finally, when it comes to building a website, it has to be responsive in the mobile tab and a laptop mode, which you all will be knowing better in the further section of the video. Okay, so before we go ahead and complete this, let me, if you are very much interested to do and design your own website and to understand the entire process of how the designs of the website is done, mainly for healthcare professionals. So this is a free course which I'm giving. Actually, it's a cost of 4,999, which we are giving free of cost for all of you, where you can actually design a website hands-on, understand the basic concepts of everything, and be able to build a basic structure of a website. Okay, so website design blueprint for healthcare professionals. You can just click the link in the description below, where you'll get to this. You'll be able to, it's all pre-recorded videos in a structured way, entire video concepts with a lot of giveaways, basically PDFs, templates, notes, so that you'll be able to understand it better, and analogies, and you're going to get basic understanding of this entire structure and able to do yourself, build your own website. Okay, so please click the link below to get this resource for free, and you'll be able to get the value out of what, with my all of years of experience, you'll be able to build things faster. Okay, right. So with that, so we are almost end of the discussion. So if you liked what we are discussing, the way, creative way of how I'm putting things out for you to understand it better with years of experience in the digital space, right? So currently we'll be discussing a lot of things in this channel on digital health. That's the way forward. And please click the link for the subscription, and also click the bell icon to get the regular update. And if you like what we discussed and today's topic specifically, comment in the section below what did you what's your thoughts and suggestions for us to improve. With that, empower your patients, grow your practice with digital health. Till then, signing off, Dr. Sajjan, digital health consultant. Take care. Thank you.